The battlefield was silent now, but silence did not mean safety. Broken ships floated in the dark sky, burning with faint orange flames. The ground was covered in shattered metal and ash. A single human soldier moved quietly among the ruins. His name was Daniel. His uniform was torn, and his left arm bled from a cut. But his eyes stayed sharp. Daniel pressed himself against a collapsed wall, breathing slowly. He was alone. The rest of his unit had fallen, scattered by the alien army's sudden attack. If the enemy found him, he would not live to see another sunrise dot above him. 2 moons shone brightly, casting silver light across the battlefield. The silence was heavy, broken only by the crackle of distant fire. Daniel gripped his weapon tighter, every muscle tense. Something felt wrong. He was not as alone as he thought. Then he heard it. Footsteps, soft, light, and measured. Not human. Boots, something else, something careful. Daniel froze. The sound came closer, echoing against the stone ruins. His heart raced. He raised his weapon and aimed into the shadows. A figure appeared at first. Daniel thought it was a trick of the moonlight, but then she stepped into view, tall, graceful. Her skin shimmered faintly, as if touched by starlight. Her hair flowed like strands of silver, and her eyes deep violet, glowing faintly in the dark locked onto his dot. She was beautiful, but she was not human. Daniel's throat went dry. He had seen alien warriors before, but never like this. This one wore no armor, only a torn royal cloak, dark with dust and battle marks. A circlet rested broken on her head. She was not a soldier. She was someone higher, someone untouchable. An alien princess. For a moment, neither moved. The ruined battlefield faded away. It was just him and her, staring across the broken stones. 2 survivors from opposite sides of a war. Daniel lowered his weapon slightly, confused by her presence. Why was she here? Why was she alone? The princess tilted her head, studying him with those glowing eyes. She looked tired, but unafraid. Slowly, she raised her hand, palm open, not a weapon, but a sign of peace. Daniel's breath caught. His heart beat faster, not from fear, but from something he could not name. Maybe it was madness. Maybe it was hope, but the words slipped out. Before he could stop them, "I could love you forever," he whispered. The words were quiet, almost lost in the wind, but she heard them. He knew she did. The princess froze. Her violet eyes widened, and for the first time, he saw her mask of calm break. She blinked slowly, as if caught between shock and something else, something hidden in her heart. Daniel cursed himself. Why did he say that? He was a soldier. She was the daughter of his enemy. They were supposed to kill each other, not whisper promises in the night. But then it happened. Her lips curved into the smallest smile, not cruel, not mocking, a smile soft and dangerous. She stepped closer. The moonlight touched her face, and Daniel could see it clearly now, her skin, pale with a faint silver glow, her lips trembling as if she wanted to speak, but held back. The air grew heavy between them. Daniel gripped his weapon tighter, torn between instinct and desire. He should run. He should capture her. He should do anything except stand frozen like a fool, but he couldn't move. The princess stopped only a few steps away. Her eyes glowed brighter, reflecting the firelight around them. She opened her mouth as if to speak. Daniel leaned forward, desperate to hear, but before any sound came, the distant roar of alien engines shattered the moment. Ships passed low over the ruins, searchlights sweeping the ground. Both Daniel and the princess ducked behind the broken wall. The lights moved closer. Alien voices echoed, calling in a language Daniel couldn't understand. The princess's hand brushed against his arm as they hid, her touch cold but electric. Daniel's chest tightened. For a heartbeat, it felt as though the war, the danger, the entire galaxy outside had vanished. There was only her hand on his arm and the faint sound of her breath beside him. The searchlights passed. The voices grew distant. Silence returned. But the silence was different now. He turned his head slightly and found her eyes already waiting for his dot. Her lips parted, and in a voice as soft as the night sky, she whispered something back. Daniel could not believe what he heard. His world shifted. His heart pounded. Because the alien princess had answered his whisper, and her words promised that nothing would ever be the same again. The night had not ended. The ruins still burned with dying flames, and the air still smelled of smoke and iron. Daniel's whisper hung between them, heavy and impossible to take back. And then came her reply. It was not loud. It was not clear, but her voice cut through the silence like a blade. Her alien tongue carried strange music, yet Daniel understood one word forever. His heart stopped, but before he could speak again, a new sound filled the night-distant horns. A call used by alien hunters. She stiffened, her violet eyes narrowing in fear. "They're searching for me," she whispered, this time in broken human language. Daniel's blood ran cold. For him, survival had always meant avoiding alien soldiers. But for her, the princess, the hunters were not enemies. They were her own people, which meant she was running from them. Why would a princess flee her own? The two of them crouched in the shadows as alien patrols moved through the ruins. Daniel's eyes stayed sharp, scanning the ground for escape. The princess pressed her hand against her cloak, hiding the broken symbol of royalty on her chest. The golden crest was cracked, half-burned, but still recognizable. That was when Daniel understood. She was not just any alien. She was the Emperor's daughter, the very ruler who had ordered humans to be crushed. He should have hated her. He should have captured her, dragged her back to command. She was a prize that could turn the war. But looking at her trembling hands, Daniel didn't see an enemy. He saw someone hunted, abandoned, and alone. They moved together through the ruins, silent as ghosts. She walked with grace, but Daniel could see the pain in her steps. Once, she stumbled, and her cloak slipped open, revealing a deep bruise along her ribs. Daniel stopped her, kneeling quickly. "You're hurt." Her pride flared. "Do not touch me, human." Her voice was sharp, commanding, like a princess should be. But her knees trembled. Daniel ignored her anger. Gently, he tore a strip of cloth from his sleeve and wrapped it around her side. "If you bleed, they'll track us faster," he said. "I'm not helping you, I'm helping me." For the first time, she laughed, short, bitter, but real. "You lie even when you help." Daniel met her eyes. "Maybe, or maybe I just don't want to watch someone die tonight." Her smile faded, replaced with something softer. She looked away. Hours passed as they hid in the skeleton of the city. Broken towers leaned like dead trees, and strange alien stars lit the sky above them. The princess stayed close, her glowing eyes scanning the shadows. Daniel felt her presence like a fire at his side. At last, she spoke again. "You do not know my name, human." Daniel raised a brow. "Should I?" She hesitated, then said, "Lyrina." The name hung in the air, sharp and beautiful. Daniel repeated it under his breath, tasting the sound. "Lyrina." Her gaze flicked to him quickly, almost like she had felt something when he said it. "Why are they hunting you, Lyrina?" Daniel asked. Her silence lasted too long. Finally, she answered, "Because I am not what my father wanted me to be." The confession struck him harder than any weapon. Daniel leaned back against the wall, watching her carefully. She was a princess, yes, but she was also a prisoner of her own bloodline. Lyrina's violet eyes glimmered in the starlight. "You should hate me. My people kill yours. My father ordered it. Yet you whispered love to me." Her lips curved slightly. "Why?" Daniel's throat tightened. He wanted to say he didn't know. He wanted to laugh at the madness of it. But instead, he spoke the truth. "Because when I looked at you, I didn't see an enemy. I saw someone I didn't want to lose." Her breath caught. The wall between them, the barrier of war, blood, and species cracked. For a moment, Daniel thought she might reach for his hand. But before she could, the sound of boots echoed through the ruins. Alien hunters again, closer this time. Lyrina's eyes turned sharp. She pressed her finger to her lips, warning him to silence. Then she grabbed his hand and pulled him into the shadows. Her grip was firm, urgent, for a princess raised in luxury. She moved like a fighter now. They crouched behind fallen stone, breaths shallow as alien voices rang out. Daniel felt her hand still clutching his. She did not let go. The patrol passed, unaware of the fugitives hiding only a few feet away. Silence returned, thick with tension. Daniel turned to her, whispering, Princess, why are you with me? Why not let them find you?" She stared into his eyes, her face so close the silver glow of her skin touched his cheek. "Because," she whispered, "I would rather risk death with you than live as my father's daughter." Daniel's chest tightened. The meaning of her words was clear now. The alien princess's enemy had chosen him, and with that choice, their fates were tied together forever. But fire came without warning. One moment the ruins were silent, the next, streaks of red light cut across the night, striking the broken walls around them. Stone shattered, flames burst, and the air filled with the hiss of alien weapons. Daniel threw himself over Lyrina, dragging her to the ground as another blast scorched the wall above their heads. Heat licked their skin. Dust rained down. "Run," she cried, but Daniel didn't let go. He pulled her behind a collapsed pillar, his weapon already raised. Shapes moved through the fire-alien soldiers, their armor glowing with the royal crest. They carried long blades and rifles, their voices chanting in a tongue that made the ruins feel even colder. They weren't searching anymore. They had found her. Daniel's eyes locked on hers. "If we fight together." Lyrina's lips trembled. She had been raised to command armies, not to bleed in the dirt beside a human. But in his eyes she saw no hesitation, only fire. She nodded once. Then the battle began. The soldiers swarmed, their shadows dancing in the flames. Daniel fired, his weapon spitting bursts of light. One soldier fell, another staggered, but more pressed forward. Lyrina raised her hands. Strange blue fire sparked at her fingertips, swirling into a sharp arc of energy. She flung it across the ruins, striking to soldiers and sending them crashing into the rubble. Daniel blinked in shock, even as he reloaded. "You never mentioned you could do that." She smirked faintly, her silver hair wild in the firelight. "You never asked." Together they moved, back to back, human steel and alien power. He shot with precision. She struck with raw energy. Sparks and screams filled the ruins, but for every soldier that fell, more appeared. Daniel's muscles burned. His breath grew heavy. Still, he refused to retreat. Lyrina fought at his side, her cloak torn, her circlet gone, her violet eyes blazing. Like stars. At one point, a soldier charged with a blade, swinging down toward Daniel. He stumbled, weapon empty. Before the strike landed, Lyrina screamed a sound that shook the air. Blue fire erupted from her hands, blasting the soldier back into the flames. Daniel looked at her in shock. Her chest heaved, her face pale, but her eyes were locked only on him. "You are mine to protect," she whispered fiercely. The battle slowed. The last soldiers fell, their armor smoking in the fire. Silence returned, broken only by the crackle of flames. Daniel dropped to his knees, exhausted. Sweat dripped down his face, mixing with dust and blood. He glanced at Lyrina. Her hands trembled, drained from the power she had unleashed. "Are you?" he began, but stopped when she swayed. Without thinking, Daniel caught her in his arms. Her body pressed against his chest, her skin cold but alive. He held her close, refusing to let her fall. Her breath brushed against his neck. Why do you not leave me, human?" Daniel looked down at her, his heart pounding louder than the flames around them. "Because I told you already," he whispered. "I could love you forever." The words struck her deeper than any wound. Lyrina lifted her face, their eyes meeting in the glow of fire. She was the daughter of an emperor, hunted by her people, feared by humans. Yet in this moment, she felt something she had never known before. Safety. Her lips parted. Her forehead nearly touched his. The air between them burned hotter than the flames, but she stopped herself. Her voice trembled as she leaned closer, whispering at his ear, "Say it again." Daniel froze. "What?" "Say it," she demanded, her breath warm against his skin. "Say you could love me forever." He opened his mouth, but the words were drowned by the sound of engines. A shadow passed over the ruins, an alien dropship, massive and armed, hovering above. Searchlights cut through the fire. Voices barked commands. Lyrina stiffened in his arms, her violet eyes wide with fear. "They won't stop until I am dead." Daniel tightened his grip. His voice was steady, calm, unshakable. "Then they'll have to go through me first." The firelight flickered across their faces, painting them in gold and shadow. To enemies bound by something far stronger than war, the alien princess clung to the human soldier, her lips trembling with words she dared not speak. And above them, the Empire closed in. The dropship had passed, but the silence it left behind was heavier than the fire. Daniel and Lyrna hid deep in the ruins, inside a hollowed chamber that once belonged to a marketplace. The flames outside flickered against cracked walls, shadows stretching like long fingers. Lyrna sat with her back against the stone, her cloak wrapped tightly around her. Her violet eyes no longer glowed as brightly. She looked pale, almost fragile. Daniel knelt across from her, his weapon resting by his side. He studied her quietly, the way soldiers do when they sense more lies than truths. "You're not telling me everything," he said finally. His voice was low, steady. Her gaze lifted slowly, catching his. For a heartbeat she looked like she wanted to deny it. But then she laughed, a bitter, broken laugh. "You think you know who I am, human," she whispered. "You think I am only a princess running from her father." Daniel frowned. "Aren't you?" Her fingers tightened around the cloak. "If that were true, would I be hunted by my own guards?" She stood, moving slowly, and pulled the cloak from her shoulders. Beneath it, her royal armor was shattered, torn apart in a way that spoke of betrayal more than battle. And on her back, faint but clear in the firelight, were scars, long, thin lines across silver skin. Daniel's chest tightened. Scars made, not by war, but by punishment. He rose to his feet. "Who did this?" Her lips trembled, but she met his eyes. "My father, the great emperor you humans fear. He gave me these because I refused to obey." The chamber grew colder. The words hung like steel. Daniel stepped closer, his voice hard but quiet. "Obey what?" Lyrna's eyes glistened with something that wasn't anger this time. "He ordered me to choose a mate from his warlords, a union to bind me to his throne. But I refused. I would not be chained to men who kill for pleasure, who see life as only blood and power." Her voice cracked, and she pressed her hands against her chest. "I told him no. I told him I would rather die." Daniel stared, the truth sinking like a blade. She wasn't just hunted, she was cast out. A princess turned traitor to her own blood. For a long moment, silence filled the chamber. The fire outside hissed. Daniel's jaw tightened. Then, slowly, he stepped forward. Without a word, he lifted the torn cloak from the ground and wrapped it back around her shoulders. His hands were gentle, steady. "No one will hurt you again while I'm here," he whispered. Lyrna blinked, her breath catching, her body stiffened. But then she let herself lean into his touch. For the first time in her life, she wasn't treated as a weapon or a prize. She was treated as someone worth protecting. Her violet eyes softened. "You speak as if you believe your words can change fate." Daniel gave a small, tired smile. "Maybe they can. Maybe fate just needs someone stubborn enough to fight it." The moment stretched. The firelight painted her silver skin with gold, and his rough human features with warmth. Lyrna's lips parted, as though she wanted to say more, but no words came. Instead, she stepped closer. Their faces were inches apart now, her breath brushing against his cheek. "You're a fool, Daniel," she whispered. "Maybe," he said softly, "but I'm your fool now." Then she did something he did not expect. She reached out and placed her hand over his heart. Her touch was light, trembling, yet it sent a shiver through him. "In my world," she said quietly, "touch is sacred. We do not give it lightly. When I place my hand here, I claim you as mine." Daniel swallowed hard, his chest rising under her palm. "And what if I let you?" Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "Then no power in the galaxy can take me from you." But the moment shattered. A crash echoed through the ruins, shouts in the alien tongue. The hunters had found their trail again. Daniel grabbed his weapon, his voice sharp. "They're here." Lyrna's hand slid away from his chest, but her eyes still burned with new fire. She lifted her chin. "Then they will see," she whispered. "What happens when the Emperor's daughter fights not for a throne, but for a human?" The chamber filled with shadows as footsteps closed in. Daniel raised his weapon. Lyrna raised her hands, blue fire already crackling, and together, Side by side, they prepared to face the storm. The storm broke at midnight. Rain hammered the ruins, washing away the blood and ash. But the sound was deafening. Lightning split the sky, white light flashing across shattered stone towers. The wind howled like a living beast. Daniel dragged Lyrna into a half-collapsed cave at the edge of the ruins. Water rushed past the entrance, a river forming where the battlefield once stood. Inside, the air was damp and heavy. Daniel's chest rose and fell as he leaned against the wall, his weapon resting across his lap. Lyrna sat across from him, her silver hair plastered to her skin, her violet eyes glowing faintly in the dark. For a long moment, neither spoke. The storm outside was loud enough to drown out their silence, yet the space between them still felt heavy. Daniel broke it first. "You should rest." Her lips curved in the smallest smirk. "Rest, while your people hunt me. While my people hunt me, especially then," Daniel said quietly. She tilted her head, studying him as if he were a puzzle she couldn't solve. "You fight like a soldier. You speak like a rebel. But when you look at me," she paused, her voice softer. "Now, you look like a man who has already chosen me." Daniel's throat tightened. The storm raged outside, thunder shaking the cave. He could deny it. He could remind her they were enemies, but he didn't. Instead, he whispered, "Maybe I have." Her eyes widened. For the first time, the princess, who carried scars of royalty, looked uncertain. She shifted, drawing closer across the cave floor until the shadows of their bodies touched. "You don't understand what you're saying," she whispered. Her breath trembled. "In my world, to claim me is death. To touch me is forbidden." Daniel met her gaze, unflinching. "Maybe your world should be afraid of mine then." The words hit her like fire. Her hand lifted as if to push him away, but instead, she brushed her fingertips against his wrist. The touch was hesitant, almost accidental, but it sent a shiver through them both. For Lyrna, it was the first time she had ever chosen touch freely. For Daniel, it was the moment he realized the war outside no longer mattered. Her voice was barely a whisper. "This is madness." Daniel leaned closer, his breath mingling with hers. "Maybe madness is the only thing keeping us alive." The storm outside roared louder, a curtain of sound that hid them from the galaxy. Lightning lit the cave in flashes, illuminating their faces as rough with scars of battle, hers glowing with alien beauty. She trembled, but not from fear. Her violet eyes locked on his lips. "Say it again," she whispered. Daniel's voice was steady, low, unshakable. "I could love you forever." Her lips parted. For a heartbeat, she leaned in, close enough for him to feel the heat of her breath. But then she pulled back sharply. Her body shook. She turned away, pressing her hands against the stone wall as if she could hold herself together. "No, I cannot. If I give myself to you, I betray my blood, my people, my father's throne." Daniel's jaw tightened. He wanted to tell her the throne was already lost, that her father had thrown her away. But instead, he spoke the truth he carried in his chest. "You're not your father's throne. You're you, and I don't want a princess. I want the woman who chose to stand with me." Her shoulders trembled. Slowly, painfully, she turned back to him. Tears glistened faintly at the corners of her glowing eyes. "You are a human," she whispered, "and I am an exile. Our worlds will never allow this." Daniel reached out, his hand hovering just an inch from hers. "Then let our worlds burn. I'll still choose you." For a long moment, neither moved. The storm howled, the cave shuddered with thunder, and the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, at last, her hand lifted. She placed it in his. The forbidden touch. It was small, trembling, but it was hers. Daniel's chest tightened as he closed his fingers around hers, pulling her closer. Their foreheads touched, a silent vow stronger than any throne or empire. But the storm was not their only witness. A shadow moved at the cave's mouth. Dark shapes appeared, alien assassins, blades gleaming under the lightning. Lyrna's breath caught, her hand tightening around his. "They've found us," she whispered. Daniel rose, pulling her to her feet, his weapon already in his other hand. His voice was low, fierce, unbreakable. "Then they'll learn what happens when they try to take you from me." The cave burned. The assassins had not come to capture. They had come to kill. Their blades clashed against stone, their voices echoing. Like monsters in the storm, sparks lit the darkness as steel met energy. Daniel fought with every ounce of strength left in his body. His weapon flashed, but for every soldier he struck down, Timur rushed forward. His arms ached, blood smeared across his face, but he refused to fall. Lyrna stood beside him, her hands blazing with blue fire. Each blast shook the air, throwing enemies back, burning holes into the stone walls. Yet each strike drained her. Her breath grew ragged, her glow dimmer. "Daniel," she gasped, staggering as another wave rushed in. "There are too many." He caught her arm, steadying her. "Then we fight anyway." The storm outside raged, lightning flashing through the cave entrance. Every time the sky lit up, Daniel caught glimpses of her face, fierce, defiant, and still breathtaking even in exhaustion. But the assassins did not stop. They pressed harder, blades flashing, boots slamming into the earth. One struck Daniel across the shoulder, tearing his uniform. He gritted his teeth, refusing to cry out. Lyrna turned, fury in her eyes. She raised both hands, pouring every drop of her strength into a single wave of blue fire. The assassins screamed as the blast threw them back, smoke filling the cave. But when the light faded, Lyrna collapsed to her knees. Daniel dropped beside her, shielding her body with his own. "Stay with me," he shouted over the storm. Her lips trembled. "I cannot, not much longer." At that moment, a deep voice echoed. Through the cave, "Lyrna." Daniel froze. The assassins stepped aside, making way for a towering figure in black armor. His presence was heavier than the storm, darker than the fire. Lyrna's eyes widened in terror. "No," she whispered. "The Emperor's warlord. Her father's right hand. You shame your blood." The warlord growled. His voice rumbled like thunder. "Your father offers you one last chance. Return, or die with your human pet." Daniel stood tall, weapon raised, though his hands trembled with rage. "She's not going anywhere with you." The warlord sneered. "You are nothing, human. She's of royal blood. She belongs to the Empire." Lyrna struggled to her feet, her body shaking, but her eyes burned with defiance. She stepped in front of Daniel, her cloak torn, her scars visible under the lightning. "No," she said firmly. Her voice was weak, but steady. "I do not belong to him. I do not belong to you. I choose." She turned, her violet eyes locking onto Daniel's. "I choose him." The cave fell silent. Even the storm seemed to pause. Daniel's chest tightened. For a moment, he forgot the assassins, the warlord, even the war itself. It was only her choosing. Him against an empire. The warlord's voice broke the silence. "Then you will both die." The assassins charged again. Daniel fired, striking one in the chest. Lyrna screamed, unleashing fire from her hands. They fought like two stars colliding, back to back, refusing to be torn apart. Every moment was chaos, blood and fire, but their hearts beat in the same rhythm. At one point, Daniel stumbled, his weapon torn away. An assassin raised his blade, and Lyrna stepped between them, taking the strike across her shoulder. She cried out, her body collapsing against him. "Lyrna!" Daniel roared, catching her in his arms. Her blood shimmered silver against his hands. Yet even as pain consumed her, she smiled faintly. "Do not stop," she whispered. "If I fall, fight for me." Daniel's eyes burned. "No, you're not falling. Not now, not ever." With a roar, Daniel grabbed the assassin's blade and turned it back, fury burning through his veins. He fought with raw strength, no longer a soldier, but a man protecting the only thing that mattered. Lyrna, bleeding and trembling, still raised her hand one last time. Her fire exploded through the cave, blinding the assassins, forcing the warlord to retreat deeper into the storm. The survivors fled, leaving only silence and rain. Daniel held her close, lowering her to the cave floor. Her violet eyes fluttered open, weak but alive. "You fool," she whispered, her voice soft against the storm. "You will die for me." Daniel pressed his forehead to hers, his voice firm. "No, I'll live for you." Tears slipped down her silver cheeks, mixing with rain. "You speak as if love is stronger than empires." He smiled faintly. "Maybe. It is, and in that moment bleeding, broken, hunted they kissed for the first time. The storm roared. The galaxy raged, but inside the cave, only their hearts spoke. The night sky was alive with fire. Alien warships roared overhead, their beams cutting across the ruins like burning suns. Searchlights swept the ground, hunting for the fugitives who refused to bow. Daniel gripped the controls of a stolen skiff, its engines sputtering as it darted through broken towers. Beside him, Lyrna clung to the rail, her violet eyes burning against the storm of light. Her shoulders still bled, her skin pale, but her spirit burned brighter than the ships above. There, closing in, she shouted over the roar of engines. Daniel's jaw tightened. Then we make them chase us into the stars. A blast tore past them, shaking the skiff. Fire trailed across the sky. Daniel fought the controls, knuckles white. Lyrna steadied, herself raising her hands. Blue fire leapt from her fingers, striking at the pursuing ships. One spiraled out of control, exploding against the ruins below. But more came, dozens. An entire fleet. The Emperor himself had unleashed his wrath. Daniel's chest heaved as he pushed the skiff higher, engines screaming. The clouds tore open, revealing the endless night sky above. Stars scattered across the black like diamonds, distant and unreachable. Beside him, Lyrna's gaze softened. Even as death closed in, she smiled faintly. "Do you see them, Daniel? The stars, they look free." He glanced at her, his heart pounding louder than the engines. "So will we." The fleet descended. Warships locked weapons, preparing to end them. And then on every channel, across every speaker, a voice thundered. Lyrna. The Emperor's voice, cold, immense, heavy as a mountain. "You shame your bloodline. You betray your empire. For a human, return to me now, and I will grant you mercy." Daniel's grip tightened on the controls. He felt her hand slip into his, trembling but firm. Her voice rang out, strong despite her wounds. "No, Father, I am not your prisoner. I am not your crown. I am Lyrna, and I have chosen." The Emperor's fury shook the sky. "Then you will both be erased." The fleet unleashed fire. Beams of energy rained down, filling the heavens with destruction. Daniel shouted, pulling the skiff into a desperate climb. Lyrna's power flared beside him, shielding them with arcs of blue fire. The ship groaned, engines howling, but it carried them higher and higher, away from the war below, through the chaos. Their eyes met. "This is it," Daniel whispered. "If we fall together." Lyrna pressed her forehead against his, her lips brushing his ear. "Forever, Daniel. I would love you forever, even if forever ends tonight." The skiff broke through the last cloud. Suddenly, silence. The storm was gone. The battlefield was far below, and above them only endless stars, endless freedom. For a moment, it felt like the galaxy itself had stopped to watch. Daniel reached for her hand again, their fingers locking tight. "Then let forever begin here." She smiled, tears glistening in her violet eyes. And then light. The fleet burst through the clouds, weapons glowing, engines blazing. The Empire had followed them into the heavens. Lyrna rose, her body trembling, but her power sparking brighter than ever. "They will not stop," she whispered. "Not until one of us is gone." Daniel stood beside her, his weapon ready, his voice calm. "Then let them learn that some things can't be destroyed. Not by armies, not by empires." "What things?" she asked softly. He met her gaze. "Us." The fleet closed in. The skiff shook, caught in the light of 100 weapons. Daniel and Lyrna stood side by side, holding each other's hands, their hearts steady in the face of death. And as the sky lit with fire, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Would this be their end, or the beginning of something greater, something strong enough to break the chains of an empire? The scene froze on their faces, defiant, unbroken. Together, and across the stars, their whisper echoed, "Forever."